Hi, Stephanie. We'll get started.
Going.
Good. How are you?
I am good. Hanging in there. Am
Yeah.
I in here twice? That might be someone on my team there.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
No worries. No worries.
That might be Clint. I'm not sure, but we can remove them. Sorry if I gave them that link.
No, no, you're fine. Good morning, everyone. We'll get started in just a moment. Hi, Grace. I love that. Thank you for joining our first day and our second day. Okay. Hi, Day.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. Good morning. All right. Well, while we wait for our other panelists to jump on, I will get us started. Welcome, everyone, to day 2 of the Chronic Boss Summit. We are so excited to have you here. We had an incredible first day, so many insights, tons of attendees, and just a lot of great conversations happening in circle. So thank you all so much for participating and for carving time out of your day to be here with us. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Lauren Perna Communications and Cleared to Flourish. Lori Butson, who runs Cleared to Flourish, did an amazing job on our corporate panel yesterday, and she is available in Circle to chat. And Lauren Perna will be doing a session on Level Up on LinkedIn tomorrow, so I definitely recommend checking that out. As a reminder, we have a couple of summit sessions today as well as tomorrow. And as a registrant of the summit, you do get $50 off your Chronic Boss membership. So we encourage you to join. That brings the price down to $397 annually. And so if you're enjoying this type of content, you're enjoying connecting with other ambitious business women living with chronic conditions, we encourage you to join the membership. And if you want to get a flavor for what our programming looks like, in addition to some of these panels, we're doing our mastermind this afternoon, which is something that we actually do monthly at the collective. And it's an opportunity for you to ask questions, get feedback, harness the collective brain power of our group, and then do some networking and make asks. So we encourage you to join that. But without further ado, I'd like to get us going here. So I'd like to looks like we have.
Hey, Lily, Bethany's trying to log in. I just sent her another link. She's texting me.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie. And it looks like
There
Bethany's
she
here.
is.
I just promoted her to panelist. Perfect. Hi, Bethany. Thanks for being here with us. And then Mariah, I'm going to promote her to a panelist as well. Sometimes this happens with tech, right? It doesn't always work seamlessly, but the important thing is that everyone is here. Okay. Fabulous. Hi, Mariah. All right. This is everyone, right? Yes. Yes. Okay. Fabulous. So I'm personally very excited about this panel. All of the women here are women that I deeply admire. They are entrepreneurs who are living with all different types of chronic conditions and have been extremely successful in building their businesses. And I think you're really going to enjoy hearing from them today. They have a great session lined up for you. So I am going to take a step back and I'm going to give the floor to Bethany to introduce the panel. And I encourage you to ask questions for the panelists in the chat. If you do have any questions that are more admin focused, please do put those in the Q&A section and I'll take care of those. But if you have questions for the panelists, you can put them in the chat. As a reminder, this will be recorded. The session is being recorded and it will be available later today on our Circle platform. It is available to you until October 7th, at which point all of the recordings are only available to Chronic Boss members. And all our final one more announcement before I pass it over. We are giving away, as part of this session, for folks who have attended live, we will be raffling off $100 off membership. So instead of just the 50, you actually get a full 100. And just by being here, you've already been entered into that. So we will reach out later today and let you know who the winner is. Okay. Now, Bethany, I will pass it over to you. Thank you all so much. Enjoy the session.
Thank you, Lily. I am so excited to be here. Just a little moment of panic thinking I wasn't going to make it up to the panelist stage, but I am Bethany Braun Silva. I am a type 1 diabetic. I am also a reporter for Good Morning America. I host the podcast and web show, The Breakdown with Bethany on mom.com. And I'm also the author of Like a Mother, is a best-selling book on Amazon. And I am just so thrilled to be here to host this incredible panel, the Entrepreneurs Experience panel. You're going to learn all about leveling up in your business, starting a business, everything it takes to run a business while also mastering and dealing with your chronic illness. So I'm going to let the panelists go around and introduce themselves. But first, I'll do a quick go around. We have Stephanie Cartin, co-founder of Enteprenista, Mariah Gale, CEO of Mariah Gale Creative and Studio Reverie, Adebukola Ajao, who is a digital marketing consultant. And Steph, let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about yourself before we jump into the questions.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to connect with you all. I'm Stephanie Cartin. I'm one of the co-founders of Enteprenista. I am a serial entrepreneur, have co-founded and sold several businesses over the past decade now. And I've been living with multiple sclerosis now for over 13 years. I was diagnosed when I was 27 years old, right when I was starting our first business, Socialfly, and I just turned 40 and celebrated my 13-year diagnosis, because it has been quite an accomplishment over the past 13 years, learning how to manage living with a chronic condition and building businesses. But I'm excited to share everything I've learned over the years with everyone today. And I'm an open book, so feel free to always reach out to me after this panel today.
Great. Mariah, let's jump to you.
I'm so happy to be here too. I'm Mariah Gale. I've been a photographer and designer for 18 years now. My career has taken me everywhere from baby elephant orphanages in Kenya to photojournalism in Alaska to doing underwater photo shoots to following families back home here as their kids grow up. So I'm really grateful to have been in this artistic, creative industry for as long as I have been. I was diagnosed as an adult with ADHD after my daughter got diagnosed. When she got diagnosed, everything started to click into place for me, and I decided to get evaluated, and I have ADHD. And after figuring that out, it was like my entire life made sense. And that was 3 years ago that I got diagnosed. And since then, it's been this integration process, a de-shaming, a destigmatizing process. And I'm just hoping to create more space for brains like mine, brains like my daughter's, normalize it and celebrate it.
Lovely. Okay, last but not least.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Adebukola. Thank you so much for having me. I am a digital marketing consultant and agency founder. Everything I do revolves around marketing, because I believe if you're in business, marketing is your business. I am also a marketing educator, so I am an adjunct professor at Northeastern University, where I teach undergrads and graduate students marketing, social media marketing and strategy, digital strategy, and hopefully will make my way to the Africana Studies department soon. Outside of that, I am a small business resource advocate. And so I've built a platform called For All Things Digital. Some of you might know me from For All Things Digital, where we share a boundless amount of resources to small business owners, whether it be marketing, funding, or just general business resources. I was diagnosed with Graves' disease, so I'm a thyroid warrior back in 2015. So I'm going into almost 10 years of having the chronic illness, and I've been through multiple surgeries and still able to sustain my business and even grow as a result of really figuring out what it takes to build a sustainable business while having a chronic illness. So I'm excited to be here, honored, and yeah, let's get into it.
This is so eye-opening, just even hearing the introductions, because I think one of the really fascinating things about chronic illness is like when it decides to hit us, right? I was 17 and you hear, you know, certainly the three of you were all diagnosed at different ages and stages in your business and your life. So the first question I want to ask is, how has your chronic condition shaped your approach to entrepreneurship and decision making in your business? Stephanie, let's start with you, because you did mention you were just kind of like at the cusp of starting your first business when you were diagnosed with MS.
Yeah, so I was actually still working in my corporate job right when I was diagnosed, but was already planning to leave that corporate job to start our first business, which is called Social Fly. And for me, it really was a blessing because being able to have my own business, I can make my own schedule, I can prioritize what I need to do to take care of my health. Whereas when I was working in the corporate world, I felt like I had to like ask for permission or share that I was going to doctor's appointments, and it made it a lot harder and more challenging. So for me, it was really helpful starting my business because I didn't have to report to anyone. Of course, I have a business partner. So, would share with Courtney, like, I'm going to these appointments, but I had that support and I didn't have that like anxiety feeling like I had to report to someone and share everything about myself and what I was going through. So it was actually really helpful. And as I've navigated managing, running businesses and living with MS over the past decade, for me, I've just really had to learn how to prioritize taking care of myself. And for me, that's looked like putting everything I need to do to take care of myself in the calendar, from, buying the right foods and going to the grocery store, to putting time in the calendar to exercise, to making sure I like literally stand up and take a walk during the day. Because if I don't calendar it, it literally does not happen. It will not happen. I will just keep working and I will not get up from my desk. So making my health a priority has been key. And one last thing I'll add is learning how to say no to things that don't align with things that I know are going to make me not feel great. So I need sleep. I need 8 hours of sleep. And if I don't get 8 hours of sleep, I'm not a great person to be around, because I say to my daughter all the time, like, I'm on the struggle bus if I don't have 8 hours of sleep. So if I get asked to speak somewhere or invited to an event where it's going to be like a super late night, or I have to travel and I'm not going to get great sleep, like, I say no, because it's not in alignment with what I have to do to take care of myself.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Adebukola, same question to you, but you did mention some surgery. So can you also like take us through like recovery and like how are you prioritizing running the business with those surgeries?
For me, I was a solopreneur for many years of being a business owner. So I've had my business just as long as I had my diagnosis. So I started my business in January 2016 and only had found out just a few months earlier that I was diagnosed with Graves' disease. Well, it first started as hypothyroidism and then changed and progressed into Graves' disease. And for me, letting go of all of my operations and how I work was really difficult because I was so comfortable with myself. I was cutting the rug, doing everything I needed to do. But I realized going into surgery that the surgery happened in my neck area and I couldn't talk. And a part of being a consultant or being in marketing is you're doing a lot of talking, you're doing a lot of meetings and speaking with people. And I literally was like destabilized. I couldn't do that. Those of us who have chronic illnesses, we're very, very famous for pushing through, regardless of how we're feeling, regardless of what diagnosis we have. We still push forward and work 10 times as harder. However, when you can't talk, right, or you can't move, now it's like, I don't have a choice. I now have to bring people on. And that was really hard because now I'm managing my health, trying to also keep my business together and not lose my clients, but also make sure that the business is still running and things of that nature. So I think as far as decision making, it literally pushed me to be a decision maker and to put my big girl pants on and really make a plan for what my business would look like in my absence. And that was like extremely scary, handing my business off to someone, but it changed everything. Like I literally could not scale without a team, right? When people say they're a self-made millionaire, we all know that that's just simply not true, right? The way that I was able to manage was really building a team of people I trust. I'm really, really blessed and lucky to have people that I've had minimal issues with. I still have the same team that I hired back in 2021 when I had my surgeries. And it's just been phenomenal. And it really helped me see, you know, beyond what I was looking at for my own business. I was, again, never made six figures until I hired more people to take on the various tasks. It doesn't matter how much of a marketing expert you are, you don't know everything. And there are people who are, their zone of genius might be in one specific thing that you can hire out for. So that really helped me become a decision maker. Now it's like anything I need to do to pivot or whatever, I'm so much more open to doing that.
I love that. There's so much power in delegation, but it is also scary too. So thank you for sharing that. Mariah, same question.
So in terms of the approach to my business through an ADHD lens, so I think no matter if you are diagnosed or not, officially diagnosed or not, you know, if you have a brain that works differently in our culture, you're very much aware of the fact that you don't really fit into the systems and the culture that has been set up. And so it's easy to feel like there's something wrong with you. And a lot of us who are diagnosed late in life, it's like, oh, that's the reason. It's not something that's fundamentally wrong with me. It's not something that's morally wrong with me. That's the reason I can't do that thing. And the way that I've reframed business for myself and entrepreneurship is to say, this is my chance to create a container for myself that has the systems and the culture that actually work for my specific brain. Like there are containers that I am in where my brain works like a Ferrari. There are containers that I can go to where my brain works like a golf cart. And so it is up to me to create this container that actually works for my brain. And I actually have the power to do that through my business. And so that's kind of a fundamental reframe that I've used for myself to approach my business as an opportunity to have more power in that space.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And one of the questions that I love to ask on my podcast, The Breakdown with Bethany, is because it is a podcast for moms, and we're usually moms with, you know, who are listening, have an entrepreneurial spirit or have some kind of idea they're marinating on, but they're kind of, there's always like a fear or a, you know, some sort of hesitation to take that leap. So I would love to hear from you. And of course, when you have kids or a chronic illness, it becomes even more a bit of a challenge. So I would love to hear from each of you. What tips do you have for women, you know, who have chronic illness, who have an idea of a business and you know, it even doesn't have to have I know we're here to talk about the chronic illness part of it all, but really like maybe what is like the mindset tips too. I'm really curious about if a woman is wanting to start a business, what tips would you have for her? Adebukola, let's start with you.
Yes, oh, so many tips. The first tip is really having strong systems in place to organize your life. I feel like I work with many, many small businesses, part of the work that I do as a marketing consultant. And I find that a lot of small business owners are all over the place. They're trying to do a million things at once. And for those of us who have chronic illnesses, unfortunately, sometimes being disorganized can actually do more harm and can actually, I just feel like sometimes we, to be honest, don't have the capacity or the opportunities to kind of just do things on the whim. And so being very, very detailed and organized about with your day. For me, I know that I have moments of crises. Very similar to those who have sickle cell, we have moments of crises where we're in extreme fatigue and pain, have irritable bowels and things of that nature. And so planning my day out is like, I have to have every minute of my day planned out, but also making sure that there's a contingency plan for if I'm not feeling well. So everyone on my team, my family, I mean, I do have a job as well. They all know like what a crisis means. And so effectively communicating to the people on my team and my clients. It's hard to take on clients as well that don't understand your chronic illness, because if they have like hard deadlines and you can't reach them for whatever reason because of your illness, that can be a thing. The good thing that I tell my clients and my staff is that thank God I'm not a surgeon, and like nothing that we do in marketing is like incredibly serious enough that if I'm not feeling well, that everything would fall apart. But just having effective communication and organizing your day out, like minute by minute, hour by hour, can really help you in times of crises when you need to step away, and making sure there's a contingency plan for who are taking things over. Now, when you're first starting a business, that can be tough if you don't have a team or have anyone. But just pacing yourself and not beating yourself up if things don't get done. You have to remember that your health comes first, right? I think that's like the whole crux of the matter, is that your health comes first. And so you really want to make sure you're taking care of that.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And Mariah, I would love to also, same question, but also if you could give us some personal insight, like when you decided to launch the business too, like what maybe even a challenge you overcame, or what was your mindset like when you decided to start your own business?
I've had many iterations of this business, and so I feel like I've restarted it many times. When I really decided to go all in was after I got divorced 2.5 years ago. And I really had to reevaluate what my life was going. It was like starting over, basically. And I feel like I started the current iteration of my business when I made that leap into, running my life by myself and all the changes that come with that. And so I've been really going through this evaluation process where, it's interesting hearing Ade talk about her schedule, and like it seems like that like gives you comfort, like scheduling out your entire day. For a brain like mine, that paralyzes me. I can't do it. And so looking at things like that and seeing other people's tips as something that's like a good guideline, but maybe doesn't work for your specific brain, and giving yourself permission to do things differently is huge. Like, and not feeling shame about doing things differently. I would say one of the number one superpowers about ADHD is the ability to do things differently. And so if you start from that place and you say, okay, I do things differently, my brain works differently, how can I start from me and create systems around me that work for me? Even if it's completely different from all the other top tips that other people could give you, start from yourself first. And that, after getting divorced and after rebuilding my life, focusing on me and coming from a place of core self has been a project for my entire life, not just my business, but I consider it the defining aspect of this iteration of my business. Like, it is truly coming from me, and it is supporting me, and it's a container that supports my Ferrari of a brain. I don't know if that answers the question.
It does. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's really helpful information. And Steph, you talked about Social Fly. We know about Entreprenistas and, your challenges with MS. You mentioned that you don't have to kind of like report into like the corporate world to a boss and something like that. But what systems do you use to manage your business and also your health? Like if in a moment of crisis or something like that, I think we would love to hear about that.
Yeah, something I've always done is I over communicate, I think, with my team, and they always know what's going on with me and how I'm feeling and how I'm doing with my health. Just recently, actually over the past couple of weeks, I was not feeling well at all because I wasn't able to get my monthly infusion. So I do an infusion called IVIG, which is essentially real people's immunoglobulins, is the treatment I'm on for my MS. And I had an insurance change and wasn't able to get my infusion. And I was fine the first 4 weeks after having my infusion because that's my normal cycle. But then the 4 weeks after that I couldn't get it, I couldn't think clearly. I felt like I couldn't get words out. Like the past few weeks were absolutely awful for me. And finally, last week, I was able to get my infusion and like immediately started feeling better. And it was like obviously such a relief because I'm like, okay, I'm back, because I probably could not have had this panel like this if this was last Monday or Tuesday before I had my infusion. And being able to share with my team what was going on, knowing that they're there for me, things are going to get done even if I'm not there or around, has been really important. And also building a business, and for anyone here who has their own business right now, if you're thinking about starting a business, building a business that isn't dependent on you. So I know that our business can still run. If I'm out for a week or even maybe a month, I have a team in place and they can execute and they can do it. And that gives me peace of mind. Now, do I want to be there every second and involved in everything? Of course I do. but I know that our team can do it. And Bethany, I just want to go back and answer one of the questions that you had asked before for anyone here who's thinking about starting a business. My 2 tips I'll share with you, and I put the first one on a mug, so I want everyone to know this. Just get started. You just have to take the first step and just start. Like, it can be analysis paralysis. If you're like, should I do it? Should I not do it? Like, just start. And then the second thing to do is to surround yourself with a community like this, with Lily's incredible community she created. This Chronic Boss Collective is incredible. Having other people that understand you and can support you. We, of course, started our Enteprenista League community to be able to surround entrepreneurs with the support that's needed. Don't try to do everything on your own. None of us can get through life, business, health challenges by ourselves. Like, we need other people to be there for us. And it's okay to ask for help. No one knows absolutely everything. You have to learn from other people.
I love that. And I was going to say, it's not a Stephanie answer without mentioning community and the power of community. And actually, the next question I want to ask is about how you kind of define success for yourself professionally and personally. And I'll share with you, my success is finding community. I sort of lived, I hid my illness for so long, right? Like, because I felt like I don't need to even share it. It's not part of the story. It's not part of my story. But as soon as I started talking about it, like, the community rose up to support me in not only professional ways, but personal ways as well, as you can imagine. So I want to go around and talk about how you guys define success professionally and personally. And if you are able to maybe share a personal story around that. Mariah, let's start with you.
I define success by the amount I'm able to unmask around others and with my audience. I spent most of my life masking what I saw as inadequacies, instead of being open about them, and masking all of the different sides of me. Like my love of science and my sense of humor and how just weird I can be. And I'm finding that the more that I unmask on social media, the more people connect with who I am and what I do, and the more comfortable people feel with me, and the more they're able to unmask as well. And I look at the whole creative process, and I work with a lot of female entrepreneurs, including Lily and a lot of people in this group. I consider what I help people do is to unmask their true selves so that I can reflect it back to them and show them that they can step into that unmasked version of themselves. And I look at my own success in unmasking as kind of a parallel journey to that of my clients, and the amount of unmasking I'm able to help others do.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It was really beautiful. Ade, share with us some personal and professional wins, and maybe a time when you kind of like had to redefine what was possible or what was important to you.
For me, just getting up every day feels like success. Like, even coming to Chronic Boss Summit today feels like success for me, because there are days where I literally cannot get out of bed. Like, no matter how hard I try, it doesn't mean I stop working. I'm always doing something. But I think success for me is just knowing that entrepreneurship in and of itself is probably one of the reasons why my disease progressed from one thing to the other. It started off as hyperthyroidism, a little bit easier to treat, and is now developed into Graves' disease that is incurable at this time. And unfortunately, entrepreneurship can be so stressful that it can actually cause people to develop chronic illnesses. And so we're talking about entrepreneurship, but I also think it's important to note that. So any day that I get to be an entrepreneur, when I'm talking to a client, meeting a potential client, even if they don't book with me, I'm like, I'm just so happy I got to even have a conversation with you, because it's so difficult, especially for those of us whose chronic illnesses are, like Mariah said, that are a bit masked. Like, people can't tell I have a chronic illness. And when people can't tell, they oftentimes assume everything's okay. And so for me, one of the most moments I felt so successful was when I was going through my surgery and not being able to talk. I mean, I literally was actually starting to learn sign language, and my voice doesn't sound the same as it used to, because I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to talk as readily as I did before. And in those moments of silence, the most creativity was just coming to me. You know how you lose one sense and your other senses become like heightened? I kind of feel like that's what happened to me. And, I just just came up with all these cool ideas, which ended up turning into, I was able to design a brick and mortar space, which is a grocery store. I was able to design the brick and mortar space, and it's just like really beautiful. It's almost like an art gallery, but it's a grocery store. And I just felt like so successful being able to do that despite what I was going through, but despite how I was feeling. Like a lot of people didn't even know what I was going through until I came out of it. And I just felt like those moments I felt most proud, because hair is something that is meant to take me out, and I just keep pushing forward. Like that for me feels like success.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I can relate to that too. I think we all can, like the disease you can't see, right? But it's affecting you every minute, every day. Stephanie, okay, same question. Tell us about, how you, I'm sorry, I lost my place. How you define success in
No, it's
your
okay.
professional life.
For me, success is making impact. So being able to do things in my life and in business and sharing to be able to help others. It's one of the reasons why we created our Enteprenista community, to bring people together, because we know that when people come together and can collaborate and do business together and talk to each other, that's when real impact is made. So for me, success is all about just continuing to make impact every single day.
Thank you so much. And I think we've all touched on a few challenges, but I would love to take a minute to go maybe a little bit deeper in that, to talk about a challenge that you've overcome recently or in the past and how it's affected your business in particular. Stephanie, can we start with you?
Yeah, sure. So I was just sharing the recent story that I'm still navigating right now, because now I'm looking to change from being on a monthly infusion to a weekly subcutaneous injection of IVIG, because I'm having so much trouble with my veins. So it's like this constant thing that I have to deal with every single day while I'm running my business is, okay, I need to schedule in time to call the doctor and then call back the insurance company and just try to manage everything. And what I've learned to do is literally schedule those times to make those phone calls in my calendar, because if I don't put them in my calendar, like I will not remember to call. And then a few days have gone by and I'm like, oh my gosh, this didn't happen. I didn't do it. So it has been like very challenging to be able to navigate this. A lot of it is just the time that it takes, and if we think about as business owners, like time is money, right? If you have a consulting company and you're charging hourly for your services, every hour you're not spent consulting with someone or working in your business, you're not making money. So the time that you're spending on hold for 40 minutes, or just, trying to get a doctor to call you back. I'm still waiting for a doctor to call me back from 2 days ago. And then having to, I had a call scheduled with them, or I had a time in my calendar scheduled to call the doctor's office. They weren't available, haven't heard back. And if I didn't put that in my calendar to call them back, it wouldn't happen. So it can just be, I'm sure I see heads nodding. And if anyone has been through this, like it's so frustrating and challenging, because it's not how we want to spend our time, but you have to do it, because if you don't take care of yourself and your body, you can't take care of your business. You can't take care of everyone else. So you do have to prioritize doing that.
Yes, I agree. I think we talked about all of those insurance and navigating those doctors. It's definitely a reality that we have to face every day, and it's not pleasant.
It's not
Mariah,
fun.
tell us about a personal challenge you've gone through recently or in years past. Anything you'd like to share?
I think the most recent one, and this sounds like a small thing, but it's huge to me, is giving myself permission to work at night instead of in the morning. I can't get my brain to do anything in the morning. And it's so much easier for me to body double. Body double is huge. If I'm working during the day, or if I need to work by myself, I do it at night. And it always felt so indulgent to me to go do my walk in the morning and like give myself permission to not work until noon at least. That felt so indulgent, and I kept shaming myself over and over for it. And I just recently was like, why not? Why not just change my working hours? Why not just give myself permission to work at night? And it's made me so much more productive, because I'm not spending mental energy on shaming myself for it. Um, and I mean, just adjusting my supports around that. So, I just want to call out the amount of support that I have, because people look at what I do on social media and it looks like I'm a one-woman show, but I have a person that consistently runs my emails, My inbox, my invoicing, my contracts, anything admin that actually needs to be consistent, she runs that. So it's not in my brain. I have a trauma-informed and ADHD-informed therapist. I have a financial coach with a financial team because my brain thinks that numbers are feelings and not actual numbers. And so there's a lot of scaffolding around me that props me up too. And like giving myself permission to have all of those things is also huge. So it's a lot of stuff, but most recently is being able to work at night.
I love that. I'm all about, like getting rid of the shame and figuring out doing what works for you, just kind of like unapologetically. I think we all deserve that. At a last, same question for you. Tell us about a personal challenge.
One personal challenge that I've had is just getting um, organizations, whether it may be workplace, institutions, to recognize my chronic illness as also a disability, because by way of having the illness, it has disabled me in many ways. And so having to fight for your rights as someone who has a chronic illness is just so tough because I need accommodations. I may not look like it, but I do. And recently I've come across a case where I do need accommodations and I was not given them, and therefore I had to fight, to get them, and that can be a long battle. And having to sit around and having to, display how chronic my illness is and everything that I go through as far as the symptoms of people I didn't know and who weren't really caring, or just simply did not believe me because again, I don't look like it, was really, really heartbreaking, and it was really difficult to go through. And one thing I will say that is like a solution to that is having community. So the Chronic Boss community has truly been the antidote to a lot of that. Being able to just contact someone in the group or in the community and say, hey, I'm going through this, disabilities case. Who has been through this? And so many people being able to reach out and say, I've been through this. Like prior to being part of CBC, I did not have any community. I didn't even know many people that have the same disease as me. Now I know too many people, which is not, the best thing. But I do appreciate having that community and being able to ask questions and know that I'm not alone. Like so many of us are dealing with the same things. And so becoming an advocate has truly been one of the things that I'm passionate about continuing to do, because there's just so many of us who are going through dealing with ADA things. And so pretty tough, but I appreciate for this community for coming through for me.
I'm so happy to hear that. I know it can be so isolating, so I'm so happy that you found a community. And thank you all for sharing your challenges. I know it's important to be vulnerable in times like this so that we can, connect and uplift others. But as we're sort of coming to the end of this session, I did want to leave us on a positive note and ask you how your chronic illness has impacted your professional life in a positive way. And if it's okay, I would love to share that it's really taught me empathy. I was a teenager when I was diagnosed with diabetes. And so I was far from thinking of myself as a professional, right? But as I navigated 2 pregnancies, the corporate world, launching out on my own, I realized that diabetes kind of gave me this like empathetic superpower of being able to be really patient and understanding with people, whether they had chronic illness or not, because I knew what I was going through on like the back end, right, at home, like what I was having to navigate and manage. And I couldn't really think that I had to be the only one, which clearly I'm not. So I guess I wanted to go around and ask you guys the positive impact, and then also maybe if you could at the end think about like your one word superpower that this illness has given you. And Ade, let's start with you.
Grace. One of the things that having a chronic illness has taught me is to have grace. I know that I need grace in certain situations because the vast majority of people outside of those who have chronic illnesses don't understand it. Even if you have a chronic illness, doesn't mean that you understand others' chronic illness and what that looks like. Because I've had people who have Graves' disease tell me, well, I'm not dealing with that. Well, I can do this. But I also know people who have Graves' disease who cannot walk and are wheelchair bound, right? So having grace for others and having grace for myself too. I can be really hard on myself. I know many of us here can be very hard on ourselves because we expect the best of ourselves and we know we have to work so much harder. But having grace for myself and others has really helped me a lot because, again, I always have to remind myself I'm in an industry, thankfully, where emergencies are not really a thing, right? Like nobody is going to crash out because we missed a deadline. And implementing grace into my system. So like for my marketing agency, we have 2 deadlines. We have like a deadline and then like a hard deadline with our clients. So my clients know I have a chronic illness and they're always anticipating like if we don't meet the actual deadline, there is an actual real deadline coming up in the future. And that really just helps all of us work and again, put those contingencies in place in case anything happens. So implementing grace into the system and workflow helps.
I love that. It actually is like a very, very practical takeaway that I might steal is the deadline and the hard deadline. So thank you for that. Mariah, let's go to you.
Deadline and hard deadline. See, I would always wait for the hard deadline, so you can't do that to me. I need that urgency. I need the neurotransmitters. um, it's fascinating how different things work for different people like that. I think the best thing that I can bring to the world is my ability to see things differently and have empathy for others. And I'm always knowing that everybody is doing the absolute best that they can with the way that their brains are structured and the way that they're living. And, you know, the way that we're moving through these systems that don't work for most people when you really get down to it, whether it's, you know, you're a mother or whether you have a chronic condition. And so it is that empathy and that grace for other people. But the seeing things differently and helping people to see themselves differently and holding space for others to do things differently in the world and give them permission to do that. I think that's my overall superpower. And that's holding literal space with my studio. It's holding space with photo shoots. It's holding space being like, yeah, but do you actually want to do that? Like, what is the thing that differentiates you? How do you want to do it differently? You can do that. You totally can. And you could do it in this way and this way. And here's how we can visually show that. So it's giving permission to people. It's reflecting it back to them. It's holding space. It's helping them unmask. And it's helping the world to do things differently.
I already feel like I'm gonna go leave here giving myself permission for like a million things this week and beyond. So thank you so much for saying that, because I think when we hear you that you're giving yourself permission, it allows us to give ourselves permission. So Mariah, thank you so much. All right, Stephanie, let's hear your chronic boss superpower.
I have just truly learned to be able to advocate for myself and then share my learnings with others. So I think my superpower has really been just being able to always communicate and share what I'm going through to be able to help other people, because I've learned so much by looking for information and seeking community and asking questions. So when I get those answers, being able to share it with others who might not be asking those questions but might be wondering it, I know I'm able to pass that information on. And with advocating for yourself, one thing I'll leave everyone with is just a reminder that when you have doctor's appointments, you're working with doctors, they work for you. You are paying them your hard-earned money to get answers and to find the solutions to what you're going through, that you need to be sure that you're asking the questions and getting the answers that you need. And you don't leave that appointment until you get those answers, or you follow up until you get those answers, because your doctors work for you. And yes, it's a team effort with them, but make sure you feel comfortable with your doctors. Make sure you're always advocating for yourself, and you don't have to take no for an answer. Keep asking the questions. So just wanted to leave everyone with that. It's something that I've learned the hard way over the years by not always doing that. And when I got very confident in being able to ask questions and coming prepared with the questions, writing them down ahead of time so I didn't forget them, that's when things really changed for me in the best way.
Thank you all so much for sharing these amazing insights. I thought I was going to learn something. I didn't realize I was going to leave feeling so incredibly inspired with like an actual toolkit of how I want to approach my business and my illness going forward. Adebukola, Stephanie, Mariah, thank you so much for the time. I think we're going to invite Lily back for some questions from the group. So yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much to all of you. This has been Absolutely amazing. I was just nodding my head the whole time, and there were so many golden nuggets that were dropped throughout. So, thank you. Thank you for being here. It definitely really resonated based on what everyone has shared. And so thank you. Thank you so much for being here. We did have a couple of, we do have a little bit of time. And so I'm just gonna look really quick to see if there were any questions that, we wanted to grab, and I did have one come in actually through here. So just give me one moment. So when you guys did talk about this a little bit, I don't know if you have anything else you want to add around, Katie asked, curious to hear about everyone's experience with balancing medical bills, health insurance, while being an entrepreneur, especially after leaving the corporate world. So I don't know if anyone wants to jump in and provide a little bit more color on this.
I'm happy to take that one for sure.
Thanks,
So,
Stephanie.
making sure that I always have had really great health insurance has been like my number one priority since starting our first business. So when we started Social Fly, we were only, it was myself and my business partner, and we had a few team members at the time, and we used what's called a PEO. We've tried different PEOs over the years because there's different companies that offer them, but essentially you're able to get insurance as if you're part of a large organization. So we use a company called JustWorks right now for our business, and we've been able to get incredible insurance. And that has always been like my number one priority, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs are like, I can't leave my job because I need to stay on my company's insurance plan. I have to make sure I have insurance. Like, there's plenty of opportunities out there for you with these PEO platforms to be able to get great insurance. So I'm happy to we have a special referral link. Do you want me to put that in the chat, Lily?
Yeah, I have it all pulled up and ready to go, so I can
Okay.
drop it in there for you. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. So yeah, we have a special rate with JustWorks if you want to start a PEO for your business. So essentially they handle payroll, insurance, you get the benefits like you're part of a big company, but even as a startup, which is great.
Yeah, and thank you, Stephanie. So generous of you to share that with the folks on the call today. So that is a great resource for people. Did anyone else want to add anything? I think Stephanie did a great job with that. Nope. Okay. There was specifically a question for Ade as well. Ade, I love your advice to have a team to delegate tasks to for when you can't function. However, when you were first starting, did you have a team? If so, how did you pay them, or did you work out trade of services?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I first started out, I did not have a team. And so oftentimes, as I believe Mariah said, I was hiding, I was hiding that I had this chronic illness. I was finessing, I was figuring stuff out or making excuses, and just, it worked out for me until it didn't. And so when I did hire out people for certain projects, I just subcontracted people for certain things. But it wasn't necessarily because of my illness. I was just putting a lot on my shoulders. And I honestly waited to the very last minute until it was dire, and until, I had to have the surgery. And at that point, I had a really big client I didn't want to lose. And literally, like, if I could not talk to them, or communicate with them within a matter of a week, I could lose this client. So I waited to the last minute, and I hope you will learn from me that you shouldn't do that. Even if you're not able to build a full team, I would start subcontracting people and just letting certain people know, like, hey, I have this digital marketing agency, and I also have a chronic illness, and I want to be able to delegate things over to you if for whatever reason I have a crisis or I need time off. So again, these people aren't your full-time employees, but they're still people who are kind of like subcontracted to you in case of emergencies, and they understand your workflow. I create memorandum of understandings with all of these folks, and make sure that we're contractually, they understand how my company runs, how I communicate with staff. I'll get them their own emails. And so just putting things, I'm just very big on like mitigating risks. I'm very much like that. So I have a plan A, plan B, plan C for everything. And so that's what has helped me, is just putting those plans in place, even as a solopreneur.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I'll also add, I'll jump in and just say, for me personally, I also work primarily with contractors at this point, and I have since I started my businesses. And I've actually had a lot of luck with Upwork, which has some it's a really reasonably priced marketplace to find folks who can help you with different projects that you're working on at all different price points. So I definitely recommend checking that out. And I think And with,
I can just
yeah,
add something
Mariah,
too.
please. Yes, jump in.
Sorry. I would say, a lot of the way that I previously thought was like, I have to wait until I have enough money to hire an assistant for 20 hours a week or full time or support them. But you can think about it differently and do something like an assistant share, where it's, you share an assistant with 3 other people that are just starting their businesses. And so you can start smaller. And what I've told myself is, if it's consistent, it doesn't matter how many hours it is. Like if I get 5 consistent hours a week in my inbox, that is better, like that's just a huge leap above nothing. And so being creative about sharing resources and giving other people opportunities to share with you is a way that you can think about it too.
Yeah, such a great point. Great advice. We have another question from Casey. Are you, your companies planning on participating in any advocacy initiatives in 2025 to increase accessibility and decrease ableism in the traditional and or non-traditional workforce? It's a good question. I don't know if folks are advocacy initiatives, if folks are attending, how much you guys are attending conferences as smaller organizations. I know for us, I know personally I do some advocacy work with the collective and then with the Autoimmune Association. So doing some work on going to Capitol Hill and fighting for pro-patient policies and that type of thing. But I know this group has relatively small but mighty businesses. So I don't know I don't know if anyone has anything else to add or if you're doing any work personally, advocacy work.
Yeah, I can add, I haven't done any advocacy work in particularly around accessibility or for those of us who have chronic illnesses. However, I did go to the White House this year with an organization called the Connected Council, which I put in the chat, and they're, really a great avenue if you want to be able to have opportunities like that, to go on the Hill, to go to the White House, to speak to the current president's administration about your particular needs as a business owner. They're a great conduit to make that happen. I've been working with them for the past couple of years, and they've been providing my business and my clients with advocacy training, because when you're in business, business is, everything we do is political, right? And so when you have a business and you become an entrepreneur, you are signing up to be political and to be involved with policy. If not, there will be decisions that are made without your input. And you'll be surprised how many local leaders and people who are writing policy have no idea what's going on. I mean, they're not going through what you're going through. They might hear of things, but it's not their personal experience. And so I implore everybody who's at the summit to join the Connected Council, download their free toolkit, advocacy toolkit. But if you really want to advocate for those who have chronic illnesses, with any particular policy that's coming out, please let me know. But you're more than welcome to reach out to anyone at the Connected Council. They're literally would be so excited to hear from you.
That's why events like this are great, because I had never heard of them before. And that's why community is important, because sharing this information, now we all know about it. So I just opened it here and to dig in. So thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Ade. Thank you. And it's something that I think the collective, it would be interesting for us to think about ways that we can move the needle in policy around chronic conditions in the workforce, being that we're only in our first year. We haven't been able to tackle that just yet, but hopefully in the future, that's something we could look into. So, and yeah, Katie mentioned Patients Rising is also a great community to help get involved in advocacy. And I will say that as within our collective, we do have a whole section around advocacy where folks can talk about different initiatives that they're working on based on their different chronic conditions, or, general pro-patient policies. So definitely that's a great space to check out if you join as a member. And I wanted to just add one more thing, going back to the question about health insurance and also just generally about resources for entrepreneurs. SCORE.org is it's a small business resource organization. And actually we have Someone named Jasmine, who she was participating on some of our sessions yesterday. I don't know if she's here now, but she had posted in the circle chat about some of the resources that SCORE offers, including some resources around health insurance, and they have mentorship programs. So that could be another good resource for folks too, who are looking for help with any of these different topics that we've discussed. So thank you all so much for being here today, for generously sharing your wisdom and giving your time. Time is such a valuable asset for everyone, but particularly as we've discussed for people living with chronic conditions, you have to make decisions about how you use your time. And so we really appreciate you being here with us today. Thank you all for attending and for being such active participants. It's so great to see that there's such a strong community here. We have over 600 people registered for this conference. And so it's important to me that everyone here knows you really are not alone. There's a lot of us in this who are ambitious businesswomen who are living with chronic conditions and want to keep building and climbing while prioritizing your health. So know that we are here for you, and I look forward to seeing all of you at some sessions later today and tomorrow. And I will drop in the chat. Remember that you do have $50 off our Chronic Boss membership that will be available through October 7th, and this recording will be available on the Circle platform later today. All right, thank you all so much for joining us. I hope everybody has a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.